Let's talk about money here. The Federal Reserve, finally, they're doing some house cleaning there and reforming the Federal Reserve inside, and I think that's great. Apparently, the Federal Reserve feels that they have been doing too much that was just too racist, and they're introducing some new woke policies into the Federal Reserve, which I think is fantastic. Now, Pat Toomey, he doesn't like it. He's one of the top banking committee Republicans, and he's actually sent letters to all of the regional bank heads and said, what are you doing? For instance, the Fed Regional Bank President Neil Kashari of Minneapolis, he sent one to Boston, also to Atlanta. He highlighted a series by the banks called Racism and the Economy and said, I agree that nobody should be racist, but the way you're doing this, your assumptions are all ideological and open for interpretation. It seems to be heavily laden with political and value judgments. Oh, no, the Fed's not doing that. No, of course not. They would never do that. The banks? Oh, the banks are not. Nothing like that. No. They're just trying to stop racism. Okay, good. Toomey, thank goodness, has pointed out that, the federal government gives the Fed the mandate, and it's nonpartisan, it's independent, and it's restricted to monetary and regulatory policies. So is this mission creep? Or is that part of the regulatory policies that they're talking about? His letter said, whether or not this is your personal view, I'd remind you that only Congress has the authority to reform the Federal Reserve or modify its statutory mission. Moreover, I would caution you on the, I love this, reputational damage being inflicted on the Fed and the Federal Reserve as a whole by pursuing highly politicized social agenda unrelated to monetary policy. I'm sorry, Senator Toomey, but I do have to laugh just a little bit when you try to make it appear as though the Fed has any credibility at all. This is a very dangerous thing that the Fed is doing, but this is part and parcel of what is coming. I'm part of me is beginning to think that the Democrats don't care if they win in 2022 because this is all administrative. This is all what Wilson wanted to do. What's the name of that book? Philip Drew, Administrator. It's a horrible book, horrible. But Woodrow Wilson read it like 4 times, and I have the hard copy. So try to get that. Most of them went into the garbage can, but you can read it online for free. It's that good. You can now read it online for free. But it explains exactly what they're doing now. This was the dream, the utopian dream of the progressives in the early 1900s. They wanted an administrative state. That way Congress didn't have to do anything. Congress would just say, oh, there is this administrative work over here on Obamacare. And then the administrative state could just do whatever they wanted within that. So the idea passed through Congress, but what happens is all decided by a group that you never elected. That's what's happening right now. I told you last hour, the Fine Arts Council of America, the National Fine Arts Committee, this is nonpartisan. Biden just fired 4 out of the 7 committee members, including the chairman, who their credentials are off the charts. Why? Because new architecture is needed now, not any of this classical architecture. Oh, so you're going to fundamentally transform the American Capitol. Okay, all righty. What is that all about? I'm beginning to believe that they are going to have so many knobs and dials and switches that they have flipped and turned that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's in Congress because everything is going to be controlled by the president. That is called fascism. That's totalitarianism. But that's exactly what is happening, even though Americans are very concerned. There's a new Gallup poll out, showed only 36% of Americans are satisfied with the way things are going. Specifically on the economy, 27% of Americans now rate the current economic conditions as excellent or even good. 30% rate them as poor. Meanwhile, 43% say the economy is getting better, 53% saying it's getting worse. Do you work for the Biden administration if you think that the economy is getting better? I'm trying to, who could say that, Stu? I guess if you work in a lumber yard, maybe?
Yeah, no. I mean, it's coming back from, I guess, the complete shutdown, right? I mean, it's getting better in that sense. But I mean, when you look at it long term, it's hard to make that case right now, especially with all the spending going out the door. But that's what they do, right? Like the left comes in and they say, we're going to spend an unlimited amount of money to put a steroid shot into the economy. Right. And that's nothing to brag about. I mean, anybody can print unending amounts of money and get a short-term sugar boost. That's not an economy.
No, it's not. None of that is real. None of that is real. And it's hurting other people. Do you know how expensive things are going to get when and if they actually do this gigantic infrastructure? The good news is the infrastructure is, defined as, I need a swimming pool in the back of my house because I'm a politician. I mean, anything is infrastructure now. My kid picks his nose and I need a booger museum. So it's not roads and bridges. But if it were roads and bridges and things that we actually needed, if you were rewiring this country, if you were, making sure that our power grid was actually secure, you wouldn't be able to get concrete. You wouldn't be able to get blacktop. You wouldn't be able to get copper wire. I mean, it will be so expensive if the government is buying it all up. By the way, I don't know if you've noticed this, Stu, but there are restaurants all around me. And I mean things like, I don't know if you've ever heard of Mooyah. It's a burger place.
Yeah.
Okay.
Burgers and shakes and fries and such.
Yeah, it's just a good burger place. They close now at 8 p.m. on the weekends. 8. Do you know why?
No.
They can't find anyone to work. They can't find anybody to go so they can keep the doors open. McDonald's and restaurants that were 24 hours, 7-Eleven open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're closing their doors at night because there's no one to work.
It's incredible. And now 24 states have stopped this additional unemployment money. All red states, by the way, 24 states. And, it's also only part of the equation. Like, it's partially like people don't know if their kids are going to go back to school in September. Are they going to take a brand new job and work just the summer and then have to quit it if their kids can't go to school for 5 days a week? Daycares are still running very strange hours. Some of those daycares will close down for 2 weeks if there's a positive test. What do you do if you have a job? If you're making more money, but from the government, why take on all that additional risk? What's the point?